The Last of Us 2 is a sequel to a beloved story which portrays one of the fundamental elements that led to its predecessor title's very potent final payoff. It disregards character motivation, and an important piece of setup which led to the first game's famous conclusion, doing so in favor of pushing its one-note theme and setting up a character drama which ultimately feels forced and terribly contrived. In the notorious scene where Ellie confronts Joel in the second game on his secret regarding the fireflies at the hospital, she becomes viscerally upset and lashes out at him.
Oh my god.
She accosts him for robbing her of a very important decision, and claims her life would have mattered had he not intervened and saved her from the procedure which would have killed her. Now, if you're familiar with the events of the previous game, surely you must ask a few very obvious questions. Firstly, how? How would it have mattered even if the Fireflies were able to obtain a cure by dissecting her brain? The Fireflies had a limited number of resources and even fewer doctors. What's more is that they were desperate to provide themselves with an upper hand given all their skirmishes with Fedra. Even if they were able to create a cure, how would they use it? How do you manufacture something in that state of your world? Apart from Marlene's word, what assurance does anyone have that the Fireflies won't use it as a bargaining chip to secure their own safety? Even in an ideal scenario where the cures could be mass-produced and somehow distributed, how much of an effect would they really have on affected societies? Consider the most prominent forms of death in this universe. Infection seems like a rare case in comparison to dying in a gunfight, starving to death, other diseases, or outright being mauled to pieces by an infected. No cure will keep a clicker from biting your neck off, or a bloater from tearing your jaw out, or stop a bullet from reaching your heart. There's a fantastic stream from Every Frame of Pause that elaborates on some of these points far better than I could. I'd recommend checking it out.
22 when the outbreak happened. He was in med school, or he was just out of med school at best. He definitely did not complete his post-grad, and yet we're supposed to believe that he is experienced enough when it comes to brain surgery and when it comes to vaccinology to create a vaccine out of this. Really? You're telling me he is just the most amazing prodigy when it comes to medical knowledge in existence. He is the one person on Earth.
If they had stuck with the original character model, who looked to be about late 50s, early 60s, that would have been a lot more believable.
Yeah, true. Also, he couldn't pass his information on to anyone in any way, not even a booklet.
Nope.
No. Couldn't have dictated anything.
Even though
no computers.
he was considered the lead surgeon, implying there are other surgeons that surely can at least understand the concept of what fucking shit you can do.
Nope, this is the one guy who can develop a vaccine for a fungus, which doesn't exist, by the way, in the real world. Even with like medical communities trying to figure that shit out. No, this one guy is supposed to vaccinate the most aggressive fungus in history. There is no fungal infection that has ever existed that is as aggressive as the cordyceps in this game.
And
he's supposed to...
Can all of that put together, right? You can conclude the Fireflies are incredibly incompetent, downright malicious, incredibly rushing everything, head first. Give no shits about a basic level of morality. I don't actually care if you think I'm gonna shoot Rags and it'll save the world. I have it as a guarantee. I'm still telling him. I don't need to just do it without his consent just because I know that it'll save the world. That shit's fucked up. And besides, we're in the post-apocalypse. This is not quite the same as saving the current world we're living in, which was all lives on this planet against one. This is all lives, this potentially is the key word, because we really have no guarantee. And people are fucking crazy all over the world right now. I don't even know how many are left or how to get it to them. Joel's choice could have been informed by a metric ton of reasoning, except in the second game, they tell us definitively all he was thinking about was, I don't want her to die, though.
But if this isn't good enough for you, consider the second question. Why? Why does Ellie care so much that she's willing to sacrifice her life for a meager, nearly impossible chance to improve their world's conditions? In the previous game, the story gives no reason to assume that Ellie is willing to die for the world. No reason that would be obvious or wouldn't contradict her survival-oriented personality, at least. She's curious, yes, inquisitive, and puts on a brave face to hide a more frightened and perhaps insecure self. But never does she convey the sense that the journey she and Joel are on are more important to her than either one of their survival. And yet, suddenly, in The Last of Us 2, She seems to care a great deal about her purpose in the world, almost as if Neil Druckmann wanted to engineer an entire 30-something hour story about her grieving her loss of purpose and a very close father figure in her life, all without considering the implications it would have to cast on her character and the work needed to do to set up such a thing. But no, fuck it. Let's just jump into it. Joel's dead, Ellie put on a deflated look, and action. As a final consideration, one should ask, why the hell is she acting this way? Her reaction makes it abundantly clear that she feels as though Joel has incurred a massive breach of trust. Moreover, that he did something terrible for a completely selfish reason. It's bad enough in the scene that it's willing to villainize Joel for the sake of a poorly planned character drama. It's even worse that Joel isn't doing anything to defend his position. Of course, other than saying that given the choice, he'd do it all again, without any justification as to why, despite having plenty. In the previous game, Joel has proven to be reliably pragmatic, surviving much longer beside Ellie over her previous companions, so much so that the game has her make a point out of it to show she doesn't want to be thrown from his company.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me. Everyone fucking except for you. So don't tell me that I would be safer with someone else, because the truth is I would just be more scared.
He has shown on more than one occasion that his cynical perception of the world based on experience has kept them alive. If you need a reminder, look no further than how he spots an ambush on the highway during the truck scene. And so as a result, Ellie comes to trust his judgment. We see that during the end scene where Joel doubles down on his lie, her expression and her simple answer reasonably denote that she accepts that this is a secret she will never come to reveal. It's a kind of abstract mutual agreement of let's never speak of this again, for our own sake. Look into it a little further, and a logical conclusion, based on their experiences together, leads one to surmise that she trusts that something happened, which Joel believes for her own good, she shouldn't have to hear about. Hence why it's so baffling to watch her paint Joel in her head as some mustache-twirling, sinful McEvil man in the scene where she pressures him to tell the truth about a secret she shouldn't have been so motivated to uncover to begin with. Additionally, please consider the question, what choice did Ellie have? During the sequence in which Ellie nearly drowns and Joel tries to resuscitate her, a blackout recurs and we suddenly arrive in the hospital housing the Fireflies. At no point is it mentioned that Ellie was revived and debriefed on the plan to extract a mushroom from her brain to, somehow, reverse engineer, quote-unquote, a vaccine. At what time was she given this choice to sacrifice her life and create a cure? We know neither Joel nor Ellie knew that this venture was guaranteed to cost Ellie her life. In fact, audio recording collectibles in this final level show that the doctors only realized this recently as well. So the idea she thinks she had a choice in the second game more comes across as selfishness, or downright stupidity if you're feeling harsh.
Take me to her.
You don't have to worry about her anymore. We'll take care.
I worry. Just let me see her, please.
You can't. She's being prepped for surgery.
All of this is to say, the circumstances which created the tragic character drama driving much of the story are fundamentally broken and don't work in retconning aspects of the first game to turn Ellie into an entirely different character. Because this is further cemented in stone by Abby killing Joel, such that they deny Joel any right he has to justify his actions and fight against the stance taken by this borderline unrecognizable person that has replaced Ellie, this tragedy narrative physically cannot course correct in any way that would give this plot a modicum of sense. It really only exists for the emotional manipulation of the player to try and tug at their heartstrings so that the writer can attempt to pose as someone with anything artistic to say. This playing with emotion strategy itself is only there because it is cheap and a lazy way of keeping portions of the audience engaged who aren't properly recalling events from prior titles, or just aren't thinking too hard about the story. In fact, the story places more effort into trying to convince the player that the original story happened one way than in trying to create and justify a good reason for Ellie to feel betrayed by Joel. Worse than that, it kills the payoff the narrative attempts to foster at the end of the game during the porch sequence.
I was supposed to die in that hospital. My life would have fucking mattered. But you took that from me.
It made no sense why Ellie would be so livid towards Joel in the first place, so why would she trying to make amends be any more reasonable? Truly, this one vital, major problem caused by a shitty attempt to set up a character drama becomes one of the most overt reasons the story of The Last of Us 2 cannot work on a fundamental level. Perhaps this also goes to show you can build a story that is compelling to certain groups of people. I don't think it is. But if that story's foundation is flawed in any way, it becomes too easy to find the cracks and ruin the immersion. That's not to say I think The Last of Us 2 is merely flawed. No, the game's story managed to impress me in so many ways. How writers can fail on such fantastic scales, especially because of pride and or ego, mixed with the kind of laziness you cannot have when writing a story such as this one. Take care of your setups, and they'll take care of your arcs. An arc only works if the setup isn't contrived in any way. That is, I hope, the lesson of this video. And that's really all I have to say. I could talk about Neil Druckmann's many attempts to prove himself a talented and creative author on video game stories, but that's worth a recording on its own. Though, it's a topic that's been discussed by a number of people already, so I'm not entirely sure what unique insight I could offer on that. Nonetheless, if that's a video you'd like, do leave a comment, or if you have another suggestion. And make sure to comment any feedback you have. I will read it, even if it's negative. It helps with engagement, and I appreciate that. Otherwise, I will catch you in the next one. Good night. The story places more effort into trying to convince the player that the original story happened one way than in trying to create and justify. In fact, the story places more. Oh, God. In fact. Worse than that, it kills the payoff. Fuck!